Welcome to the Academic Woman Amplified podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Mazak, tenured full professor, mom of three, and firm believer that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello there. I'm popping out of our podcast hiatus in order to bring you this special call to action episode. Now, when this episode gets released, it is just one day before the registration deadline for our Amplify Faculty Writing Accelerator program. So this episode is one last call to all of you who applied for our program to join now. And for those of you who haven't applied or who maybe the Amplify program doesn't apply to your career stage, what I'm sharing today is a talk through of our framework for going up for tenure with confidence. So even if you are a podcast fan who hasn't applied for Amplify, I hope that this bonus episode will make you think about the things you need to work on in your career in order to gain the amount of publications and spaciousness while publishing and writing in order to feel really confident about whatever your next career stage is. But this episode is really a call to action for all of the over 100 applicants who applied for our Amplify program to go ahead and sign up today. We still have a few spaces left. So this is the only time we're running Amplify this year. The next time we run the program will be in September of 2022. So we are assembling an amazing group of scholars, and I just really can't wait to get started. So here it is, our walkthrough of the Amplify framework for going up for tenure with confidence and your call to action to enroll today. Now, let's start out with the word amplify. So why did we decide to call our pre-tenure or early career program Amplify? Well, the word amplify in English, right, means to get bigger or louder. But there's a secret meaning behind how I chose the word amplify for this program, which includes my family's bilingualism. So I married a Puerto Rican and learned Spanish and have been living in Puerto Rico. We've been living in Puerto Rico here for 20 years or so. And all three of my kids were born here. And we're a bilingual family. We speak Spanish and English. And my husband also is teaching the kids Portuguese. And so I'm very aware, also as a linguist, an educational linguist, of language, right? And the meaning behind words. So in Spanish, there's a cognate to amplify, which is amplio. But that cognate has a different meaning. It doesn't mean louder. It kind of could mean big-ish, but it has more the sense of comfort and spaciousness. So if you say that a room is amplio, it means that it's comfortable and spacious. And so we want in Amplify to make your voice louder, right? To make you and your career bigger in a sense. But we also want you to do that with the comfort and spaciousness that you deserve in a sustainable career. So that's where we'll start. That's our goal for the program and the core essence of what we're trying to achieve. And then we have created a framework for going up for tenure with confidence. And so because a podcast is not a visual medium, I'm going to describe the framework for you. So imagine that you can see a Venn diagram with three main circles that overlap in the center. And the overlapping spot in the center is amplify, right? We achieve amplification and a sense of being amplio by having all three of these circles achieved. And so each circle has a name, and they represent the three main areas of your career that we need you to work on in order to go up for tenure or your promotion with confidence. And those three areas are clarify, demystify, and multiply. It all rhymes. Isn't it cute? So let's start with what is related to clarify. So in the Amplify program, and what you need to do, whether you take our program or not, is to really get very clear on who you are, where you want to go with your career. And from there, we can then use the demystify and multiply aspects of the program to get you there. So what's involved with clarity, right? How do we get clarity in your career? Well, in Amplify, we work through three main modules, I guess we'll say, or spokes of the framework inside of the clarify part of the program. And those spokes are design your career, power up your pipeline, and set your career's foundation. Now, in our Amplify program, the way it is delivered, we actually work all three of these spokes during our one-day kickoff retreat on September 10th. So we have a day-long virtual retreat, and we work these three main areas in a very hands-on way. So the first is design your career. So what does it mean to design your career? Well, there's a big difference between surviving your career and thriving in it. And that difference is design. So in Amplify, you learn how to create an intentional career that aligns with your scholarly goals and your life, how you want your life to be and to feel. So as part of designing your career, we cast the big picture vision for your early career experience, and we reject the idea that there's a traditional path to academic success and create a milestone map of the key academic events important to you and your career. So that is what we work on in Design Your Career. The second spoke of the framework under Clarify is power up your pipeline. So if you've been a fan of this podcast, I do often talk about how you really need to know your pipeline. So in Amplify, we learn about how to create a pipeline that sets your career design in motion, okay? So you figure out your design, and then you need the pipeline that's going to support that career design. So your pipeline is not just your writing to-do list. It's the foundation of a designed career. And you need a pipeline strategy that puts your work in conversation with your field, but also that tells your unique story. So when you power up your pipeline, you take control of your publishing pipeline and your career by establishing both priorities and boundaries, two super important aspects of the pipeline. You'll learn how to minimize your off-mission activities so you can really focus on your writing. And you'll learn how to manage your pipeline so that you know exactly what to work on next, even if you have multiple projects in play. So that's what we're really talking about when we power up your pipeline. And the way that we do that, or the mechanism through which we are teaching you the pipeline content, is live at the kickoff retreat. We do a workshop that really helps make the pipeline very clear for you. So that's super exciting. Can't wait to deliver that workshop to you if you join Amplify. The third and final aspect of the Clarify part of the framework is to set your career's foundation. And that means that you are going to create a plan for your pre-tenure experience. So it's time to take the actions now that will set a strong, sustainable foundation for your career, right? The early career moment is the foundation that you build the rest of your career off of. So to be really clear, this is not just about what you want to accomplish in your early career, but it's also about how you want your early career to feel, okay? So start the way you mean to go on, right? If you want a career and a work experience that feels empowering and exciting, but also like spacious and calm and not stressful, then you want to set the foundation of your career to be that. If you expect that you're going to work your tail off and be super stressed out pre-tenure, and then magically when you get tenure, all of that way of working will magically change overnight, it will not. Believe me, we work with post-tenure people. Like, we know that that is an illusion that people have. Like, oh, I'm just going to struggle and struggle and strive until I get tenure and then I'll be fine. No, the time to make a change in how you're doing things is right now in your early career. So in Set Your Career's Foundation, you create a pre-tenure action plan, and we talk about how to write your career narrative, which is something that you have to do when you go up for promotion. But we really take this authorial kind of take on writing your career narrative. Like, you are the author of that narrative. All right. So that is the clarify part of the program. And now I'm going to move on to the demystify part. Now, part of the problem with academia is that there is this like mysterious secretiveness about how things work and how things get done, right? And part of that is because even though academia a lot of time actually purports to be a solitary place, right? It's the lone academic. So we are dealing with the legacy of that, even though the reality of academia is actually very collaborative, right? But the values are around this kind of lone, burning the midnight oil type of image. So because of that, we really need to demystify processes and systems that people use to get things done. Or else we are just constantly reinventing the wheel or acting how we think we interpret what we see about others doing, right? And so this is how we perpetuate the culture of overwork and all of this, because we look to our mentors or to our colleagues and we're like, wow, I think they're just like working their tails off all the time. And this glorification of overwork and glorification of busy turns into like this idea that you just need to like struggle and stress in order to get things done. But that's actually not true. It's not the best way. It's not the most productive way even. So we want to demystify that, especially in the early career. It's so important. So there's 3 spokes in the demystify part of the framework: resilient writing, manage yourself, and manage others. So in resilient writing, we talk about mastering a writing system that really helps you to get back on the writing horse if you have fallen off. So we want to really understand that there is an ebb and flow and there are predictable disruptions to your writing. And then there are unpredictable disruptions. So we need to both get in touch with those predictable disruptions and understand how to deal with unpredictable disruptions, such as illness or, a global pandemic or a hurricane or whatever else, right? So when you have mastered that, you really are like ready to go, right? There's nothing that can really keep your writing down if you know how to kind of ride the ebbs and flows of the semester that might interrupt your writing practice, and knowing that that's okay because you know how to get back on. And also, how do you manage disruptions, like unpredictable disruptions to your writing, which also are going to happen because we're humans, okay? So in the resilient writing part, we talk about the role of rest, how it relates to writing and those ebbs and flows, how it relates to getting back into writing after an unpredictable disruption, and you confidently create a resilient writing plan. All right. The second spoke in this area of the framework is managing yourself. Okay, so what does it mean to manage yourself? So we want you to up-level your time management and planning skills. So you're going to learn how to make time in your schedule to write and rest with next-level time management skills. Knowing yourself, your motivations, and your processes is key to getting it all done with time to spare for thinking and resting, okay? So we'll help you learn what motivates you to write and to use that information to keep you going, okay? So motivations are different for different people. And like the whole manage yourself thing is really about knowing yourself. It's really, really about knowing yourself, like deeply knowing yourself, and also trusting, which we'll talk about a little later too, trusting that what you're doing is okay. Like trusting that actually you doing you more genuinely is actually going to be more quote unquote productive than anything else that you could do. You're also going to learn how to leverage the create and restore cycle to manage your time and your energy, and to develop systems and workflows to remove decision fatigue and hold boundaries, which is really, really important. Now, the last spoke of the framework in this section is learning how to manage others. So you want to develop professional relationships that are mutually beneficial and fulfilling. So, like sometimes we feel like hitting our career goals would be so much easier if there weren't all these other people around, right? But obviously that's not realistic, nor is it really what we want, because actually we want a community around us and we want collaborations, right? But you got to learn how to manage those relationships with others. So we talk about managing up, which is like, how do you manage people who are actually above you, like your admin and all of that? How do you set boundaries and keep them? And then also how you manage students or colleagues who are kind of, either you're managing them or you're on the same level as them. How do you relate with others so that you can keep your boundaries and you can keep moving your career forward the way that you want to? So that's what the manage others part is. The last part of our framework is called multiply. And the idea of multiply is that you're going to multiply your effectiveness in the world. So these things that you've learned in the first 6 spokes of the program, we want to add layers to them so that they become even more effective. So there's 3 areas in the multiply part of the framework: develop self-trust, lead for change, and create practices. So develop self-trust is perhaps the most important part of the program. You want to learn how to trust yourself, and it is learnable. Like it's something that you can develop, that self-trust. So really, like if there's one thing that's going to transform your academic career, it is deeply trusting yourself and learning how to listen to that inner mentor, sometimes people call it, to influence how you make decisions. But the culture of academia and, of course, patriarchy leads women to self-doubt all the time. So we are taught from very young not to trust ourselves, particularly as women, people socialized as women. So you got to develop that. That's something we need to work on. So again, being able to hear what your inner mentor is telling you and to develop self-trust with our method. So there's kind of a relationship between internal work and external work for developing self-trust that we will help you with in the Amplify program. And then also you want to be in positive spaces, both physical and mental, to take risks. And that is what we develop inside of Amplify. So you get to exercise that self-trust muscle because you are in a group of people where you can safely, or at least relatively safely, take some risks. The 8th spoke of the framework is lead for change. And really, this is about letting your values drive your career. So it is absolutely exhausting to be a professor in the racist, ableist patriarchy, and even harder to be a leader inside of institutions that really uphold that racism, ableism, and patriarchy. Is absolutely exhausting. So we want to help you process when to take risks in defense of your values and when to preserve your energy. We know that these choices are going to differ depending on your race, ethnicity, ability, and sexual orientation, among many other factors. And our coaching team is equipped to help you navigate those factors as you make decisions in how you lead. We are going to help you articulate what leadership looks like for you in your early career and beyond, because we don't think that leadership just means admin, which is what people often say. That's what it seems to mean inside of academia, right? And you're going to develop a value statement that's going to guide your work. Finally, the last spoke of the Amplify framework is to create practices. So you want to develop the practices that are going to sustain you beyond Amplify. You've grown so much in Amplify that it's time to create the semesterly and yearly practices that will maintain your new achievements, right? This is what we do last, right? Because now we're like sending you into your career without us, which is what we want, right? We want you to develop all of these things so that you can go out and change your career and sustain healthy practices and changes that you've made. So nothing in this program is one and done. You're going to continue to develop and get better at career design over time. So some of the things we'll talk about is leveraging writing groups and communities of practice and creating kind of a regular check-in drumbeat so that you can always be checking back in with the things that you've learned throughout the program. And that's where we really talk about that practices part. This is not just like, I'm going to learn a skill and then I'm going to be able to do that skill effectively forever. Self-trust is not like, I learned it, check. It's like something that you continue to develop throughout your whole life. So that is what we talk about in that create practices part of the framework. So now I have told you our whole curriculum for our Amplify program. If you are one of the about 100 people who applied and have not reserved your spot, tomorrow, if you're listening in real time, is the last day to hold your spot for our September 1st program start. It is the only time that we are running this program in 2021. Next time will be September 2022. So around October, we'll be starting the wait list for that. Meanwhile, if you are listening to this podcast and you are hearing about Amplify for the first time and you are pre-tenure or early career, because we have some international scholars in our cohort this year, so they don't use the word tenure, but it's many of the same problems as they go up for that first promotion. And you're like, wait, I've never heard of this. I need to apply right now. You can still apply. And as long as there is space, we will accept your application and you can pay your deposit and hold your spot. You just need to get that deposit in by August 25th at midnight. So if you got any questions about Amplify, we are waiting to hear from you. You can write to support@kathymazak.com. And I just really hope that whether you come and do our Amplify program or not, that this talk through our Amplify framework for going up for tenure with confidence was inspiring to you and made you think about areas of your career where you'd like to dig in and work on a little bit more. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time loving on yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you're feeling pulled in 1,000 directions and can't seem to carve out time to write, I've got a solution for you. Go grab my 10 ways to make time to write cheat sheet. Just go to kathymazak.com/podcast-time to learn my best quick tips for putting writing at the center of your career where it belongs. We'll link that up in the show notes. Just go to kathymazak.com/podcast-time.